Fox in 1912 from a man named Mr. Page. The brewers at that time were Lucas's of Hitchin. And
how much did he pay? And
sorry?
How much did he pay?
When he took it over, the whole, I don't know what the fittings, I suppose, all the glasses and the tables and chairs and all the rigmarole that went with a public house, the whole lot came to £26.10, I believe. It was £26. I've still got the receipt that he paid. That was in 1912 from this Mr. Page. And my grandfather, he was married to Rose. She was Rose Shepherd originally. There was 5 sisters, the Shepherd sisters, and he married Rose. And as I say, he took the Fox in 1912, and then we go on to. They had 4 children: May, which was my mother; Rita, which was her sister; Elfie, and Don. Don was, I think, the 3 were born in between 1912, I think, and 1920. But Don wasn't born until 1923. He was the last one. Well, in 1927, my mother, May, married Harry Cook. And Harry Cook he lived at Welbury Cottages. He came up from Surrey with his parents. His father worked on the farm at Welbury. And they got married in 1927. Well, in I imagine they must have lived at the Fox where they got married for a little while. And in 1930, my granddad died. And then the licence was transferred to my mother, well, to my mother and father. It changed hands from a Walker to a Mr. Cook, Mr. and Mrs. Cook. That's when we took over. So my mother had been there. She went in when my grandfather took it in 1912. So she was 5 years old then, and she lived in that Fox. She took over the licence with my father in 1930, and she would live there until she died in 1978. So she was there 73 years. She was in that the Fox, and because, as I say, my mother and father got married in 1927. I was born in 1928. I'm now 88 years old. I know I don't look it. I've always been good looking. And anyway,
what did you?
My father died in 1956, and the licence was transferred from him to my mother then, and that's when she kept going until 19. She would not get out. That was her life, and she's all she wanted to do. And she got a cottage to go. She bought a cottage to go into, but she wouldn't go into it. And it was in 1978 before we made her get out. And just about a week before she was due to retire, she took ill and took her to hospital, and she was dead in a week. She was full of cancer from the smoke in the pub. The smoke was, everybody smoked, you know, and everybody. Well, let me just tell you. In those days, I used to look after the tap room in about 1945 or 6, I suppose. We were busy, ever so busy on Saturday night, because there was a dance every other Saturday, and I used to look after the tap room. And a man would come in, and he'd have a shilling in his pocket. I don't know if you know what a shilling is. That's 5 pence in today's money. I'm still 2 bob and half a crown. I shall never change, you know. He'd come in with a shilling, which is 5 pence, and he'd say, "I'll have a pint of beer," which was 4 pennies. And then he'd say, "Well, I'll have half ounce of tobacco, boy." And so he had half ounce of tobacco, which was 4 pence halfpenny. That's 8 pence halfpenny. Well, there's 12 pennies in a shilling. He spent 8 pence halfpenny. Before he went home, he'd have another half, because if he got a pint pot, you go with a big half, you know. So they'd all have another half before they went home. So that was 4 pence halfpenny and 4 pence halfpenny and 2 pence for the half, 10 pence halfpenny, and he'd go home with a penny halfpenny change from 5 pence. That's ridiculous, isn't it? And now a pint of beer, you could, for £1 in those days, you could get 60 pints of beer for £1. 60. And now a pint of beer costs, I don't know, £3 something or £4. It's crazy, it is.
You said everybody smoked?
Everybody smoked. And when they came in, they'd play dominoes. So I looked in after the tap room where they played the dominoes and that. And they'd say, when they wanted to drink, they used to tap their old the old glass on the bar and on the table, and I used to go and get them. I had to go down the cellar, and the cellar was on the ground floor. It wasn't down steps. It was attached to the back of the bar, and you went down and drew the beer out of the barrel. Just hold your glass under and filled it up, or pint pot, whatever it is, or you could have bottled beer. There was bottled beer and sort of beer, spirits, wines and spirits and whatnot. And they'd say, because those days the tobacconists used to supply a tin of clay pipes. I don't know if you've seen a clay pipe. I've found lots of them in the garden. They were white and they had a long stem about 6 inches long. And when we used to give them then, so that when they wanted half an ounce of tobacco or something, and they'd say, "Bring us another pipe, boy." And when you took it, they used to break it a big piece off the stem, and stand it in the beer. Now that didn't do a scrap of damn good, because they were made of clay. I don't know if they thought that'd soften the stem. I don't know what the idea was. And they'd smoke that for perhaps a fortnight, because that kept getting blacker and blacker. And when it was jet black, they'd say, "Bring us another pipe, boy." And we used to give them another pipe. Only the rich people smoked briar pipes. They made of briars, I think, weren't they? Briar wood. But all the general public smoked clay pipes, and the room was full of smoke. All the rooms were, and if you put your finger up on the ceiling and went like that, that was like a thick coat of, well, I don't know what do you call it?
Tar? Was it tar?
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Did you have smoking contests?
Yeah, that was one thing that happened, because I can't remember them, but I've heard the old men talk about them. In the back of the Fox was what they called the club room. That was a huge room. Every so often they'd have a smoking contest there. I think what they did, I don't know if they put money in the kitty and the winner take it all, or whether the landlord gave the winner beer. I don't know what happened, but they'd fill their pipes up, their clay pipes, with tobacco, and they used to fill them as tight as they could. And then on the signal, they'd all light the pipes, and the one that lasted the longest was the winner. It was as simple as ABC, really, and that was what they called a smoking contest. So I suppose the room was full of smoke, and they lived in that. You can't wonder they got cancer or whatever they got. My mother, when the doctors opened, they told us, there's nothing. She said she's full of it. We can't do nothing for her. And sadly, she died, and she did nothing, only work, and yet she loved it, if you know what I mean. I know on Saturday, in the shooting season, the shooters used to come to the Fox to lunch. That was Stelmy Radcliffe and his guns from Hitchin, down from the Priory. He had to shoot, he owned all the ground, didn't he? He owned all the farms. And they'd come for dinner, and they'd bring it from Hitchin, cooked, and they'd keep it hot on my mother's cooker, and they'd serve in the big club room. And when they'd gone, they'd be in there, the beaters and the keepers would be in the other rooms, and they'd all got muddy feet, and when they'd gone, it was, oh God, it was terrible. There was all mud everywhere, because she took the carpets up. There was a coconut matting, I think, down, took them up, because it was wooden floor, and there was and she'd been on her hands and knees in the afternoon scrubbing that club room out, because there was a dance at night, and we were going to be back with people, and so that's all she did, ever work. And she seemed happy. I don't know.
What about the brewery? Did you have the same brewery all the time?
When Grandad took it over in 1912, Lucas was the brewer from Hitchin. Because some of the I saw there was a lot of benches in the pub to sit on, and underneath they got the Lucas name on it. I can remember them because they went out in the shed in the pigsties, and.
And after Lucas?
After Lucas, J.W. Green's bought Lucas out. J.W. Green from Luton. And then sometime in the, 50s, I imagine, Flowers took over J.W. Green, and they sold out to Whitbreads. And when J.W. Green had it, the managers or whoever they were used to come over and visit you regularly, and they'd sit and have a drink, and you were sort of anything we could do for you, they would do. But when it got to Whitbreads and Flowers and Whitbreads, all they wanted was the money. They wanted the tails to jingle, and they tried hard to get Mother out. You see, she took a long time. because she'd be budged, but she had to go eventually because age caught up with her. Yeah.
With the barrels, how did the barrels get there? I mean,
the barrels were delivered by draymen. That was the driver and his mate. They're called draymen. I mean, I think originally they used to come with horse and wagons, I suppose, but all I can ever remember was them coming with a lorry. Every Tuesday afternoon they'd come, and there was 3 sizes of barrels. There's a firkin, a kilderkin, and a barrel. A firkin is 9 gallons, a kilderkin is 18 gallons, and a barrel is 36 gallons. But we always had 18. We only had the kilderkins, which were the barrels that you could. They had to, when the drayman brought them, they'd wheeled them or rolled them into the cellar, and then they had to put them up on the stand. And you couldn't. I don't think they could have put a real barrel up on a stand like that. But that was always kilderkin. Yeah.
So you didn't have pumps and things like that?
Didn't have what?
Pumps.
No, my mother had pumps later on in life. She was some people didn't want beer out of a pump because they had to be washed out regularly and all a lot of rigmarole. So easy, a pump on the counter, you just pull the handle, like they do now, they turn a tap, but then it was all you tap the barrel when one barrel was empty, you had a mallet and you drove the tap into in the new barrel, and you put a wind peg in the top, because if the wind peg was tight, your beer wouldn't come out of the tap. You just released the wind peg a bit, and that made the beer run.
Yeah.
See, until it was empty. There was 18 gallon. What is there, 8 pints in a gallon? There's a lot of beer, and one night. Well, I can't hardly believe it, but I swear that was right. There was a dart match from a pub at the Langford. Now, the Langford boys there, they were real beer drinkers. If they were working around here, because they used to come to work in the fields, they'd come in at dinner time and they'd have 2 pints each for a start. The first one, you wouldn't see it. They'd tip it straight down. And they played darts against the Fox team this particular night, and I think they had probably more than one bus brought them. They came by bus, and they started drinking. That was a hot summer's night, and they started drinking. And my father said he tapped 6 barrels that day. So there was a hell of a lot of beer drunk, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But people used to drink beer. I mean, they used to take it out of the fields to work with them. It was like today's tea, It was